Senate will come to order. The senators will please take their seats. The senators and all in attendance will please stand and be led in prayer by the Honorable Mark J. Peake, 22nd Senatorial District. Following the prayer, all will please remain standing and be led in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America by David Hessler, Committee Operations Intern.
Let us pray. Our most gracious and heavenly Father, we give thanks to you for today and every day that you provide us. We give thanks to you for the opportunity you have given us to serve the citizens of the Commonwealth. We ask that you give us the wisdom, strength, and guidance to do your will. We ask for blessings for our governor and his administration, and that you give us the temperament and discernment to work with them as we all work together to serve the people of the Commonwealth. We give thanks for the people that protect us, the staff that prepares us and informs us and enables us to do our job. We ask for special blessings for those people who have been terribly afflicted by this virus, financially, physically, and mentally. We ask that you give them hope and comfort and guidance. We ask this in Jesus' name. We give thanks for this day and every day. Thank you very much. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thanks.
Senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Thank you, Mr. President. It had an inquiry been made, Mr. President, about whether or not we needed to introduce a new resolution for the special session, and the way the resolution was written, that it carried through these sessions of the 2021. So consequently, Mr. President, I respectfully move that the rules of the Senate be suspended, consistent with the motion that we passed the first day of the regular session, allowing senators to participate remotely or electronically.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall the rules be suspended? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 36, noes 0.
Ayes 36, noes 0. The rules are suspended. The clerk will call the roll. All those in attendance will please record their vote aye.
Senator Boysko?
Present.
Clerk will close the roll.
You have a quorum, Mr. President.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The clerk will report a certain communication on the desk.
Commonwealth of Virginia Executive Department Proclamation. In accordance with the provisions of Article 4, Section 6, and Article 5, Section 5 of the Constitution of Virginia, and the powers thereby vested in the governor to call a special session of the General Assembly, I, Ralph S. Northam, Governor of Virginia, do hereby summon the members of the Senate and the House of Delegates constituting the General Assembly of Virginia to meet in special session commencing the 10th day of February, 2021, for the purpose of continuing the work of the 2021 regular session of the General Assembly, given under my hand as Governor of Virginia and under the lesser seal of the Commonwealth at Richmond this 4th day of February, 2021, and in the 245th year of the Commonwealth. Ralph S. Northern, Governor of Virginia.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The Senate is operating under the rules of the Senate adopted at the commencement of the 2020 session. The Chair recognizes the Senator from Hampton, Senator Locke, for the purpose of taking up a resolution.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the rules be suspended, the Committee on Rules be discharged from further consideration of the resolution, the readings of the title and the engrossment be waived, and Senate Resolution 501 be taken up for immediate consideration.
Thank the Senator. The question is, shall the rules be suspended, the Committee on Rules be discharged from further consideration of the resolution, the readings of the title and engrossment be waived, and Senate Resolution 501 be taken up for immediate consideration? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senator desire to change their vote?
Senator Boysko, how do you vote?
Senator Boysko votes aye.
The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, noes 0.
Ayes 39, no 0. The rules are suspended to take up the resolution for immediate consideration. The clerk will report the resolution.
Senate Resolution number 501, 2021 Special Session 1 Operating Resolution.
Senator from Hampton, Senator Locke.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the resolution be agreed to, and speaking to that.
Senators, the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Resolution 501 is the operating resolution that sets forth the Senate operations for the special session.
Thank the Senator. The question is, shall the resolution be agreed to? Senator from Roanoke County, Senator Suderline.
Mr. President, very good. The buttons have been removed. Would the senator from Hampton, the capacity of Chair of Rules, yield for a question?
Senator Yield.
Certainly.
Senator Yields, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. As I review House Joint 5001, and it appears that it's already been passed by the House, which is what would bring it to us, I cannot
Senator, I just was...
5001.
We're on 500.
501?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Thank the Senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard on the motion? Seeing none, the question is, shall the resolution be agreed to? All in favor of agreeing to the resolution will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senator desire to change their vote?
Senator Boysko, how do you vote?
Senator Boysko votes aye.
Clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, noes 0.
Ayes 39, noes 0. The resolution is agreed to. Chair recognizes the senator from Hampton, Senator Locke.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the rules be suspended, the Committee on Rules be discharged from further consideration of the resolution, the readings of the title be waived, and House Joint Resolution 5001 be taken up for immediate consideration.
Thank the Senator. The question is, shall the rules be suspended, the Committee on Rules be discharged from further consideration of the resolution, the readings of the title be waived, and House Joint Resolution 5001 be taken up for immediate consideration? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senator desire to change their vote?
Senator Boysko, how do you vote?
Senator Boysko votes aye.
Clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, noes 0.
Ayes 39, noes 0. The rules are suspended to take up the resolution for immediate consideration.
House Joint Resolution number 5001, limiting legislation to be considered by the 2021 Special Session 1 of the General Assembly and establishing a schedule for the conduct of business coming before such special session.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The chair recognizes the senator from Hampton, Senator Locke.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the resolution be agreed to, and speaking to that.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. As indicated by the clerk, House Joint Resolution 5001 sets the procedure for business to be conducted and the schedule for the special session beginning today. And again, I move that the resolution be agreed to.
Thank the senator. For what purpose does the senator from Roanoke County, Senator Suderline, rise?
Thank you, Mr. President. My buttons are working now, which is great. Would the Senate Chair of Rules, the senator from Hampton, yield for a question on HJ 5001?
Senator yield?
Yes.
Senator yields. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I was looking through the rules, and it appears to be 16 rules, but I was not able to locate a rule prohibiting campaign fundraising during the special session. And based on comments I saw made by the Speaker of the House, I was under the impression that that might be something that would be in here.
Senator has the floor.
Even though comments were made relative to fundraising or the prohibition thereof, it is not included in this resolution.
Further question?
Yes, Mr. President, if she would yield.
Senator yield?
Yes.
Senator yields. You have the floor.
Thank you. And I thank the Chair of Senate Rules, and that's why I'm asking her the question in that capacity. But my question is, why not? Why is it not included in here after the comments that the Speaker made about prohibiting or not accepting campaign contributions during the special session?
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, I am not the author of the resolution and cannot comment on why it is not included in the resolution.
Thank you, Senator.
Speaking briefly.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I thank the Chair of Senate Rules. It is awkward when something comes from the other body and someone has to, who do you ask the question when it comes? But it's perplexing to me why, when we're basically in a continuation of the regular session, all the legislation that we can consider according to this is basically regular session legislation. Why would we be allowed to fundraise during this time period? And I don't understand why, after the Speaker made such strong remarks, the House would not have sent a rule prohibiting that to us. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank the senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard regarding House Joint Resolution 5001? Seeing none, the question is, shall the resolution be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote?
Senator Boysko, how do you vote?
Senator Boysko votes aye.
The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 38, noes 1.
Ayes 38, noes 1. The resolution is agreed to. Senate staff will transmit the resolution. Senior Senator from Virginia Beach, Senator D-Staff.
Mr. President, I just wanted to see if it was time to introduce a Senate joint resolution by unanimous consent.
Yes, Senator. You have the floor.
Mr. President, I'd like to do a Senate joint resolution by unanimous consent for a commemorative resolution commemorating Virginia Beach JCs and for having the oldest surfing competition in the world.
Thank the senator. Question is, shall the Senate grant consent to introduce a resolution mentioned by the senior senator from Virginia Beach, Senator D-Staff? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The consent of the Senate is granted to introduce the resolution. Senior senator from Fairfax, Senator Saslaw.
Mr. President, before I make the motion to recess, I just wanted everybody to note that today is the birthday of Bladen Finch. He turned 21 today. Hey, all right. I would now move, Mr. President, that the Senate stand in recess until 1:45, and at this time I would yield to the chairwoman of Senate Finance Committee.
Thanks, Senator. Senator from Northern Fairfax, Senator Howe.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Senate Finance and Appropriations Committee will meet immediately here. If you are not on Senate Finance, you're very welcome to stay and listen to what we are presenting, or you can feel free to go somewhere else. It'll be about an hour.
Thank the Senator. Do any other senators wish to be recognized? The question is, shall the Senate stand in recess until 1:45 p.m.? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. The Senate will stand in recess until 1:45 p.m.
Senator Normand. Senator Hanger.
Here.
Senator Lucas.
Here.
Senator Newman. Senator Ruff. Senator Vogel. Senator Barker.
Here.
Senator Edwards. Senator Deeds. Senator Locke. Senator Peterson. Senator Marsden. Senator Eben. Senator McClellan. Senator Howe.
Here.
Madam Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you. I want to start my comments by reflecting on the past year since we last reported a Senate budget. This past year has seen untold hardships and difficulties for many as a pandemic swept across this state and this nation. However, while there have been hardships, I've also seen resilience and adaptation to what we have faced collectively and individually. Putting together the Virginia budget multiple times this year has required the same adaptation and at times redirection as our economy has fluctuated. We have also pushed ahead to help Virginians through the pandemic and to move us forward in a number of areas, including education, health and human resources, and criminal justice reform. I'm also extremely grateful for our ability to work together in a bipartisan fashion in the Senate and to again build a budget that we could be proud of and that upholds our tradition of strong fiscal management. The Senate Finance and Appropriations Committee members have worked diligently to bring before you this afternoon their recommendations for amendments to the current budget, Senate Bill 1100. In developing our recommendations, the committee focused on providing relief from the pandemic and strengthening our commitments to core services. We were able to prioritize the people and the businesses of Virginia in a structurally balanced way. The committee made important one-time investments in providing tax relief, including over $221 million for individual and business relief related to conformity with the Federal CARES Act and the Consolidated Appropriations Act. This includes $100 million to allow tax deductions for business expenses funded with forgiven Paycheck Protection Plan or PPP loans and Rebuild Virginia grants. The committee also set aside an additional $10 million to fund sales and tax use exemptions for businesses purchasing personal protective equipment and $25 million from gray machine revenues to further support small businesses through the Rebuild Virginia program. Other examples of prudent one-time expenditures include providing cash investments in capital outlay for maintenance reserve projects and maintaining a $650 million deposit to the Revenue Reserve Fund in the second year. Turning to our ongoing commitments, I'm pleased to announce that the committee has included employee and teacher compensation in our amendments, with a 3% increase in the second year. Other amendments also support pay compression and increases for our state troopers and Capitol Police officers. The committee wanted to show them our appreciation to our employees and that we support them in these challenging times. Additional investments include those in the area of education, where we provide over $500 million in no-loss funding for K-12 enrollment, funding for several support positions that prioritize student well-being, one-time funding to encourage instructional activities to address learning loss, funding for the G3 initiative for community college students, and second-year higher education flexible operating funding. In the area of health and human resources, the recommendations fund significant investments in increasing personal care attendant rates, funding 650 additional developmental disability waiver slots, and supporting mass vaccination efforts. Other priorities reflected in the committee's recommendation consist of investments in economic development and natural resources and funding for implementation of legislation. That includes marijuana legalization, expungements, and support for a low-income housing tax credit, which is in addition to the unprecedented funding for the Housing Trust Fund. Additional priorities of the committee members were reflected in the subcommittee reports that will follow. We will hear briefly from each subcommittee chair, and after the report has been presented, I will ask that the report and related amendments be accepted. After all the subcommittee reports have been issued, I will then ask that the introduced Senate Bill 1100 be amended in accordance with the subcommittee reports and that the bill, as amended, be reported. Now that I have outlined the committee priorities in the process, I will ask Senator Saslaw to provide the report of the K-12 Education Subcommittee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair and members of the committee, your subcommittee has reviewed the governor's introduced budget for public education. As you will recall, the introduced budget includes $514 million to ensure that no division receives less funding compared to the current budget due to lower projected enrollment, $27 million to fund one counselor for every 325 students, and $16 million to restore early childhood initiatives, which the subcommittee recommends maintaining. We also recommend $30 million in the second year to support instructional activities to address learning loss due to the pandemic. Divisions can use these funds to support summer learning opportunities, extended school year programs, and additional instructional supports for our youngest learners, education learners, and special education students. These funds supplement the nearly $1.3 billion in federal relief funds distributed directly to school divisions. Our students learn best when they are in a classroom, and our most vulnerable students receive critical supports at school. We recommend language that ensures that every student has the option to learn in person during the next school year, which supports the governor's recent announcement that divisions should ensure in-person learning options are available by March 15th. We propose an additional $59 million to convert the 2% bonus that was in the introduced budget to a 3% salary increase for teachers in the second year. That's FY22. We propose $49 million to fund 3 specialized student support positions for every 1,000 students. This ensures that the students have access to nurses and mental health professionals to respond to their health, social, and emotional needs, which will allow our students to succeed in the classroom. Other recommendations by our subcommittee include $600,000 to support the recently approved Allegheny and Covington schools consolidation, and allocating federal relief funds to support diagnostic growth assessments and continued expansion of Virginia's virtual education program. The subcommittee continues with its commitments to support and improve public education by devoting funding towards our teachers and investing in ways that address our students' needs during and beyond the pandemic. I want to thank the subcommittee members, and I look forward to continuing our ongoing work regarding the future of K-12 education in the Commonwealth.
Thank you, Senator Saslow. Would you like to move that we accept?
Yes, and I would now move that the subcommittee report be accepted and incorporated into the budget.
It's been moved and seconded that we accept the K-12 Education Subcommittee's report. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, thank you. Next is Senator Lucas with the Public Safety Report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair and members of the committee, the Public Safety Subcommittee has reviewed the governor's proposed budget for the agencies of public safety and Homeland Security and Veterans and Defense Affairs. Overall, the subcommittee adopts many of the proposals in the introduced budget and recommends additional amendments that result in a net total of $15.1 million in general fund support for these agencies over the biennium. The major focus of the subcommittee has been reviewing the impact of criminal justice reform, marijuana legalization, and expungement of police and court records. The long-term impact of prohibition on recreational marijuana use has had a profound impact on minority communities. High levels of incarceration and criminal record histories have limited options for individuals in the job market and their ability to better themselves and support their families. To that end, $35 million in general fund support has been maintained in central appropriations and the public safety budget to fund up to $3.5 million for initial operating costs of legislation to create the Virginia Cannabis Control Authority and the implementation costs of expungement legislation. While balancing criminal justice reform, the subcommittee realizes the importance of the state police and the critical need to attract and retain the best and most well-qualified state troopers. The state police have nearly 300 vacant trooper positions, and many current troopers are eligible to retire this year. To that end, the subcommittee recommends fully funding a compensation plan for the state police with the passage of Senate Bill 1211, which increases the motor vehicle registration fee by $4 effective July 1st. This is an appropriate funding source considering the role of state police and the role that they have in patrolling our highways. The revenues from this increase will provide $28.5 million to fund the compensation plan for state troopers in fiscal year 2022. In addition, the Virginia Department of Emergency Management continues to play a major role in the state's response and recovery efforts due to COVID-19 pandemic. The subcommittee proposes adopting funding of $42 million in fiscal year 2021 from the Federal Corona Relief Fund and $36.9 million in general fund in fiscal year 2022 to purchase personal protective equipment, to coordinate communication and disaster operations, and to support the Health Equity Work Group. Other general fund recommendations include an additional $14.3 million for inmate medical costs at the Department of Corrections, $7.2 million to fund state police vehicle replacements, $6.4 million for the state police transition into the state's information technology environment, and $1.7 million for the security enhancements at Barnard Juvenile Correction Center. The subcommittee also recommends $2.5 million from the general fund in fiscal year 2022 to continue funding support of local government efforts in upgrading emergency shelters to ensure preparation for future natural disasters. In closing, Madam Chair and members of the committee, I would like to thank the members of the Public Safety Subcommittee for their collaboration and assistance in developing this report. Madam Chair, this concludes the Public Safety Subcommittee report. I hope it will be the pleasure of the committee to adopt our amendments, and I so move.
It's been moved and seconded that the Public Safety Subcommittee report be accepted. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, it's accepted. Senator Barker, Transportation Subcommittee.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. With our hard work last year enacting comprehensive statewide transportation funding and policy reforms for the second time in the last 7 or 8 years, and the continuing effects of the COVID-19 pandemic on our nation's health and economy, your Transportation Subcommittee recommends very few amendments today, but they are meaningful nonetheless. When we started the session, there was, and frankly still remains, both optimism and uncertainty around the estimated $252 million in federal funds available for highway infrastructure programs through the Coronavirus Response and Relief Supplemental Appropriations Act. As some of these funds will fall to the discretion of our regional metropolitan planning organizations to invest, after careful deliberation, the subcommittee recommends prioritizing $215 million of the remaining funding into statewide investments that embrace the Senate's priorities of growing our economy, improving public health, ensuring equitable access to services, and planning for our future. We applaud Governor Northrup's visionary proposals to make significant one-time investments in the infrastructure that supports our health and our economy. His recommendations to prioritize funding for intercity passenger rail and multi-use recreational trail facilities were welcomed by the subcommittee. Given the availability of one-time federal dollars, the subcommittee has made a prudent recommendation to redirect the $55 million in general funds that were included in the introduced budget for these investments to other priorities. With respect to the expansion of daily passenger rail service from Washington, D.C. to the New River Valley, the subcommittee believes that increasing accessibility is critical to economic growth. To that end, we recommend making a one-time investment of $137.6 million in the expansion of intercity passenger rail. In addition to the funds that may be made available for this critical infrastructure project through SmartScale, we are very hopeful that a strategic long-term partnership with Norfolk Southern and Amtrak may soon come to fruition. Recognizing the significant increase in demand for outdoor recreational opportunities that COVID has placed on Virginia's existing network of state and local multi-use bicycle and pedestrian facilities, the subcommittee recommends a one-time investment of $40 million in these facilities and identifies key priorities for statewide investments that can both expand our network as well as enhance the safety and connectivity of existing multi-use trails. As the COVID-19 pandemic has impacted each region of the Commonwealth and each sector of our economy in different ways, the subcommittee recommends a one-time investment of $27.4 million in support of critical public transit programs that continue to provide safe and affordable access to jobs for millions of Virginians. This funding will address the immediate capital program needs for Metro and ensure Virginia fulfills its obligations to its funding partners by providing our share of the dedicated $500 million in stable and ongoing annual support. Also included in this amount is $5 million dedicated to the Transit Ridership Incentive Program, with a specific focus on increasing the availability of free or reduced fare services as ensuring equitable access for those who use transit as a necessity, and on incentivizing those services that provide the greatest congestion reduction benefit in our densest population centers. Finally, the subcommittee recognizes that despite today's challenges, there is always an opportunity to plan for tomorrow. Virginia has long been recognized as a national leader in smart infrastructure and connected communities, and real opportunities exist that can improve community assets and deliver improved citizen services. Using data about the community to deliver better services and improving public access to these services will be key to real community reinvestment. In partnership with the Virginia Tech Transportation Institute and the Washington Metropolitan Area Transit Authority, the subcommittee enthusiastically supports investing $10 million in a connected community redevelopment pilot project at the Virginia Tech campus in Falls Church. Forward-looking investments to improve the connectivity of all modes of transportation is critical for the long-term success of any community reinvestment effort. By embracing community data on everything from pothole repair to bus services, in addition to economic and health indicators, we as policymakers have the ability to tailor government services to best meet community needs, as well as track the effectiveness of policies as they are implemented. Connecting a corridor through enhanced automation and the deployment of 5G wireless technologies can change the face of businesses located in that community, in addition to the services provided to its residents. Madam Chair, this completes the report of your Transportation Subcommittee, and I hope it will be the pleasure of the committee to adopt our amendments. I move adoption of our subcommittee report and recommendations.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Transportation Subcommittee report be accepted. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's accepted. Thank you, Senator Barker. Next is Senator Deeds with the Capital Outlay Subcommittee report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair and members of the committee, the Capital Outlay Subcommittee again worked diligently to review the introduced budget as it relates to capital outlay and the overall level of debt authorization for the biennium. As you will recall, last year the subcommittee faced the difficult task of reducing the proposed total amount of tax-supported debt for the 2020-2022 biennium. In Chapter 56, the capital outlay budget totaled $3.3 billion from all fund sources. The introduced budget that came to us recommended an additional $219.2 million for a grand total of $3.5 billion for the biennium. We studied our debt capacity status and outlook and considered the potential pipeline of projects that will be before us in future years. In addition to outstanding debt, we currently have $6 billion worth of debt that has already been authorized but not yet issued. The Commonwealth requires a 6-year capital outlay plan be proposed to help inform our allocation decisions. And in fact, we're still grappling with a few projects that were approved for planning back in the 2016 session that have not yet been authorized for construction as we balance the capital needs of all the secretarial areas with our long-standing practice of strong fiscal management. Once again, our recommended amendments reduce the overall amount as compared to the introduced budget. We maintain our position regarding the size of the Central State Hospital replacement project at 252 beds. We recommend allocating $37 million from the general fund to reduce the amount of capital reserve or maintenance reserve allocation that is currently funded with debt. We endorse planning for the replacement of the Supreme Court and Court of Appeals building, and also a replacement for an aging state office building. We endorse primary focus this year on infrastructure life safety projects. We recommend a small number of amendments, including an additional infrastructure project at James Madison University, planning and funding for some projects in the pipeline, and several language amendments. Madam Chair, this concludes the report of the Subcommittee on Capital Outlay, and I would like to conclude by expressing my appreciation to the members of the Subcommittee for their conscientious efforts in shaping these recommendations. And Madam Chair, I move adoption of the amendments.
Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded that the amendments of the Capital Outlay Subcommittee be accepted. Please indicate your aye. Aye or nay? It's accepted. Next up is Senator Locke with higher education.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. Your subcommittee has reviewed the governor's proposed budget amendments for higher education in light of the significant impacts of the pandemic over the last 11 months. Fortunately, the fall enrollment impacts have not been as severe as originally feared last spring. However, there have been additional costs and decreased revenue, especially in the area of auxiliaries. Federal funds and Virginia's higher education debt restructuring have provided meaningful relief, and our recommendations further supplement that with additional state support, and our restorations focus on student financial aid. The CARES Act provided $210.3 million in higher education emergency relief funding for the public institutions and their students, and $72.6 million for the private nonprofit colleges. We endorse also allocating over $138.3 million in coronavirus relief funds to higher education. Additional funding under the December Relief Act, the CRRSAA, totals $378.2 million for the public institutions and students via the HERF-2, and our recommended amendments further allocate an additional $22 million for financial aid and $17.3 million for testing from federal sources. The committee previously reported the chair's bill, Senate Bill 1134, to authorize prudent debt restructuring given the current interest rate environment, to provide relief in fiscal year 2021, fiscal year 2022, and in fiscal year 2023, potentially totaling up to $232 million in savings. In addition, our recommendations add to the fiscal year 2021 funding provided in the special session, with an additional $73.5 million in fiscal year 2022, with flexibility to be used for financial aid operations, or other impacts of COVID-19. We also offer some temporary flexibility regarding certain requirements related to athletics, revenues, and fees. Our other recommendations focus primarily on restorations, especially in the areas of financial aid and on health-related initiatives. We are pleased to again endorse a major new initiative for the Commonwealth with $36 million for the G3 Last Dollar Plus Community College Workforce Initiative Program we originally approved in 2020. Our recommendations move forward with this program for the 2021-22 academic year, with an additional $5 million for advisors to better ensure student success. This program is focused on low and middle income students pursuing applied degrees in high demand areas. Students can expect to earn 60% more after gaining these skills. The program will provide businesses with needed workers in healthcare, skilled trades, technology, law enforcement, and early childhood education. Our recommendations also endorse the restorations of $30.3 million for need-based financial aid, $13.5 million for new Last Dollar Plus scholarship programs at Norfolk State University and Virginia State University, and $7.9 million for tuition assistance grants. Taking the longer view, we also recommend restoring support for a needed review of higher education costs, funding needs, appropriations, and efficiencies. This will assist us going forward in meeting our goals for affordability, access, completion, workforce alignment, and underrepresented student populations, and will be all the more important now in evaluating the changes in technology facilitating education even after the pandemic. Our other recommendations are summarized in our attached materials. We hope it will be the pleasure of the committee to adopt our recommendations. I want to thank our subcommittee for their hard work, and I move that we adopt our recommendations.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the higher education amendments be accepted. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? They're accepted. Thank you, Senator Locke. Next up is General Government, Senator Peterson.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. This is the subcommittee report for general government. Your subcommittee has reviewed the provisions of Senate Bill 1100 as introduced for those portions of the budget that fall under our subcommittee's jurisdiction. In this brief report, I would like to highlight a few of the key issues in the areas of judicial department, executive offices, administration, and central appropriations. Beginning with the judicial department and executive offices, we allocate an additional $12.2 million over the biennium provided in the budget as amended, related to legislation expanding the Court of Appeals of Virginia to provide an appeal of right in both criminal and civil cases. In the Office of Administration, the amended budget provides for significant restorations of previously unallotted and removed funding for constitutional officers, including staffing for sheriffs and Commonwealth's attorneys' offices, salary adjustments for regional jail officers and circuit court clerks, and increasing reimbursement to localities for general registrars and electoral board member salaries. For employee compensation, the subcommittee recommends providing additional funding of $20.3 million in the second year for the provision of a 3% raise effective September 1st to acknowledge the hard work provided by our state and state-supported local employees in this challenging environment. And in recognition of the outstanding work and dedication of our Capitol Police officers and support staff, the subcommittee recommends additional funding of $846,907. Finally, in an effort to better understand the tools and methodologies used to support our workforce during this extended period of teleworking, the subcommittee has included language directing the Department of Human Resource Management, DHRM, and others to clearly define the state's return to work policies and also evaluate how this may inform future policy objectives regarding the use of telework as a means for achieving efficiencies, reducing costs, and sustaining a highly qualified workforce. Madam Chair, this completes the report of the Subcommittee on General Government, and I move that it be adopted.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Subcommittee on General Government's report be accepted. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? It's accepted. Thank you, Senator Peterson. Economic Development and Natural Resources, Senator Marsden.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. Your Economic Development and Natural Resources Subcommittee carefully reviewed the governor's proposed budget amendments for the Secretariats of Agriculture and Forestry, Commerce and Trade, and Natural Resources, and thoughtfully considered proposals recommended by our Senate colleagues. With so many of our small businesses struggling to recover from the effects of the COVID-19 epidemic, the subcommittee focused much of its attention on initiatives that provide support to a broad cross-section of impacted businesses. Specifically, the subcommittee recommends $10 million to capitalize a new fund to provide a source of responsible, low-cost credit through Virginia's network of community development financial institutions. These institutions have the infrastructure and expertise to deliver much-needed business financing with an emphasis on minority-owned, veteran-owned, and women-owned small businesses. The subcommittee also proposes allocating $25 million from revenues collected from so-called gray machines to provide a new round of small business grants through the Rebuild Virginia program. Access to broadband and quality, affordable housing are concerns for many Virginians that this pandemic has only made more serious. Our recommendations include a record total investment of $110 million over the biennium for the Housing Trust Fund, and we support an additional $3.3 million to a continued eviction prevention program. The budget we recommend also includes $49.8 million in each year of the biennium for broadband infrastructure grants through the Virginia Telecommunication Initiative. These and other recommended investments in community and economic development demonstrates this subcommittee's determination to support our citizens and our employers as we navigate through the unprecedented challenges of this pandemic. In the area of natural resources, your subcommittee embraces our shared commitment to environmental stewardship and thoroughly supports the governor's recommendation to provide $35 million in support of continued investments in cost-effective agricultural best management practices that improve the long-term health of our beloved Chesapeake Bay. Similarly, the subcommittee recommends maintaining our commitment to improving Virginia's environmental regulatory processes, with a focus on expediting the deployment of clean energy and energy storage solutions and improving outreach to those communities most adversely impacted by the regulatory process, the subcommittee endorses the governor's proposal to restore $12 million at DEQ, that's the Department of Environmental Quality, that was unallotted during the special session. The subcommittee has listened to our Senate colleagues and has prioritized two key initiatives that we believe truly embrace the priorities of the Senate. Specifically, the subcommittee recommends providing $1.4 million for capital improvements to the Rhododendron Lodge at Breaks Interstate Park. As you will all fondly recall, this jewel of Dickinson County was one of the highest priorities of our dear friend, Senator Ben Chafin. Additionally, the subcommittee has listened to our colleague, Senator Reeves, and recommends language to immediately direct the Office of the State Inspector General to review the operations and regulations of the Board of Charitable Gaming. While there is much conjecture with respect to the extent of the concerns that have been identified, the subcommittee believes that the most prudent and efficient approach to understanding the facts of the matter is to place this review with an independent investigative authority. I would like to thank the members of the subcommittee and our staff for the diligent and thoughtful contributions they made to this process, and I move that the subcommittee report be adopted.
It's been moved and seconded that the subcommittee report be accepted. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? It's accepted. Thank you, Senator Marsden. Senator Hanger, Health and Human Resources.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And today I'm pleased to provide the report of the Health and Human Resources Subcommittee. The subcommittee has reviewed the governor's budget for the agencies in Health and Human Resources. Unlike in the past, this area is actually a net saver of funding to help address other areas of the budget because of the enhanced federal match for Medicaid provided to states due to COVID-19. Public health emergency. The most recent information from the federal government indicates that the enhanced federal funding will last through the end of 2021, saving an additional $330.6 million in state funds. The governor also proposed nearly $120 million from the general fund for the COVID-19 response, the biggest portion being the vaccination program. However, the subcommittee is able to recommend using $108 million in newly available federal funds for this purpose. The subcommittee focused its efforts on maximizing the use of available federal funds to redirect state funds to other critical priorities, which include personal care raises, reducing the developmental disability waiver waiting list, providing additional support to Medicaid providers adversely impacted by COVID-19, and investing in local health districts. Last year, the General Assembly set into motion a path to increase the state minimum wage to $9.50 per hour on May 21st, 2021, and then $11 per hour on January 1st, 2022. I am pleased to say the subcommittee recommends a 6.4% increase in personal care rates on May 1st, 2021, and another 14.3% increase on November the 1st, 2021. These rate increases will raise the pay for personal care aides to reflect the increases in the minimum wage and ensure, or hope we can ensure, a stable workforce to care for Virginians in their home. The subcommittee further recommends adding 650 developmental disability waiver slots at a cost of $10.8 million in fiscal year 2022, bringing the total number of funded slots to 1,200 for the year. Another funding initiative recommended by the subcommittee is $15 million in one-time support for developmental disability waiver providers that have been significantly impacted by COVID-19. These funds will help stabilize these providers until service levels increase. In the special session this past fall, the General Assembly was able to restore funding that had previously been put on hold due to COVID-19, and much of that restored funding was for mental health. The subcommittee recommends adopting restorations proposed by the governor, the largest being $9.2 million for foster care prevention services. In addition, the subcommittee proposes restoring mental health funding of $3.8 million for pilot projects to reduce state psychiatric hospital census pressure and $3.1 million to expand forensic discharge planning in jails. Other subcommittee recommendations include $9 million to support 75 positions across the state's health districts to improve disease surveillance and $4.4 million to increase the auxiliary grant rate by 20% for individuals residing in assisted living facilities. I've covered many of the largest funding items in Health and Human Resources, but there are many smaller items the subcommittee recommends that will support people with disabilities, increase the healthcare workforce, improve Medicaid services, and make key investments in our social services system. These recommendations build upon the good work and vital investments from the 2020 session, and I am proud of the efforts the subcommittee has made in these recommendations. As I conclude, let me thank the members of the subcommittee for their hard work and the time they invested to put this report together. I sincerely appreciate the contributors and efforts of each member of the subcommittee, as well as our staff analyst, Mike Tweedy, who always does a good job of educating us so that we can make informed decisions. With that, Madam Chair, this concludes my report for Health and Human Resources. I hope it will be the pleasure of the committee to adopt our recommendations, and I so move.
It's been moved and seconded that the Health and Human Resources Subcommittee report be accepted. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you, Senator Hanger. Great job. The next report is the resources for Senate Bill 1100. You have in front of you a very brief summary of that report, which I will refer you to. It deals with the changes to the revenues, balances, and transfers, and I would like to move that we accept this report.
Second.
Been moved and seconded that the resources report be accepted. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Bill's accepted. The report's accepted. Before we go on to totally amending and reporting this bill, I really want to thank staff. It's been a really tough year for everyone in Virginia, but our staff has been working nonstop through extended sessions, special sessions, questions and queries from all of us, and massive disruption of the budget itself. They have been stellar. They have never refused to do anything asked of them, and in fact anticipated lots of things that needed to be done, and I really want to thank them from the bottom of my heart. And now, let's see, I'd like a motion to amend Senate Bill 1100 in accordance with the subcommittee reports. It's been moved and seconded.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Senator Newman.
Can I just speak briefly to the motion?
Yes.
Madam Chair, first, overall, a very solid budget, and I'm going to today vote for just a couple of items of note that I think that some of us were going to want to get more information from. One is more information about the Court of Appeals, some of the Woodrum Amendment items, exactly how the cannabis dollars are working out in the budget vis-a-vis the bill, and just a couple things in HHR. But Madam Chair, thank you for working so closely with both sides of the aisle as we've gone through these. Here again, I'm going to vote for the budget today and hopefully get a few more answers on those things by the time it gets to the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. We'll definitely try to get those answers for you. Is there anyone else? All in favor then of the motion to amend in accordance with the subcommittee report, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And then is there a motion to report Senate Bill 1100? It's been moved and seconded that we report Senate Bill 1100. Any comments? All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Recorded?
I believe so.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Please record your vote aye.
Senator Saslow?
Or no.
It's a voice vote, Mayor. Senator Saslow? Aye. Senator Norman? Senator Hanger? Senator Lucas? Aye. Senator Newman? Senator Ruff? Senator Vogel? Aye. Senator Barker? Aye. Senator Edwards? Senator Deeds? Senator Locke? Senator Peterson? Senator Marsden, Senator Eben, Senator McClellan, Madam Chair Howell. Aye 16, no 0.
Aye 16, no 0. Senate Bill 1100 is reported. Is there any more business to come before the committee? If not, the committee will rise.
Clerk will call the calendar.
Supplemental Calendar Number 1, 2021, Special Session 1. Uncontested Calendar, Senate Bill on first reading. Senate Bill 1100, a bill to amend and reenact Chapter 1289 of the 2020 Acts of Assembly as amended by Chapter 56 of the 2020 Acts of Assembly, Special Session 1, which appropriated funds for the 2020-22 biennium and provided a portion of revenues for the 2 years ending respectively on the 30th day of June 2021 and the 30th day of June 2022.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Senior Senator from Fairfax, Senator Saslaw.
Mr. President, I inquire of the Senate Clerk, does that complete the calendar for today?
Yes, sir. It was a long one.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Is there any other business to come before the Senate? For what purpose, Senator from Fairfax City, Senator Peterson rise.
Rise to speak for an overdue announcement.
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, I want to bring your attention to a cause that we have had for year after year after year that I have been the champion of, sometimes effectively, sometimes ineffectively, and that is the Senate basketball team. As you will know, we do not have a basketball game this year, sadly. I thought about trying to organize a Trivial Pursuit or checkers or something like that, but I just think we'll put it off to next year. We may have some new bodies at that point. But the bottom line is we're not having a basketball game, yet we can still raise money for Massey Cancer Center. And I was very pleased to get an envelope on my desk. Madam Clerk, note me ignoring the rule on no props. I got an envelope at my desk with a check on behalf of Madam Clerk to get us off to a good start. The suggested donation has always been $250 per senator. The goal has been to raise $10,000. We're obviously missing a member. I will make up that money myself, never fear. So if I can get $250 per member, just leave it on my desk, and I will make sure it gets into the hands of the correct people. We will be able to raise $10,000 this year, just like we do every year. And I will simply say that the gentleman from Russell was always one of the first people to get me a check. So we'll miss him, but we'll make that up. So please get me a check for Massey Cancer Center so we can raise the money we would raise, and we will be back next year, and we are going to kick butt on the basketball court. Thank you very much.
Thank the Senator. For what purpose is the Senior Senator from Virginia Beach, Senator D. Steph, rise?
Mr. President, I rise for the point of personal privilege.
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, the governor and the majority have been pushing laws to reform the state's criminal justice system, exasperated by the coronavirus. When it comes to police reform and parole reform, I concede the majority may have the best of intentions, but the hastily made decisions and policies put in place will most assuredly have some increasing apparent negative outcomes. The results of legislation passed will drive the future of the Commonwealth. But, Mr. President, it's important to also recognize that all legislation, regardless of whether it passes or not, sends a message. For example, every time the issue of qualified immunity, assaulting a police officer, or any measure lessening the punishment for crimes pops up, those law enforcement officers that are close to retirement start looking at their calendars. Newer officers start looking for other jobs. The officers stuck in the middle, too invested to leave, not enough time to fully retire, witness their morale plummet. Our discussions and our decisions affect their decisions of staying around, transferring, or leaving the profession. Case in point, last year, 104 sworn professional separations from Virginia Beach Police Department. That's 12.8% of the sworn positions. What message does it send to our state police when the General Assembly is unwilling to properly fund them in the base budget, but readily tack on fees, also known as taxes, to annual vehicle registrations to fund these core and essential services? The measures we've passed tie their hands, all but eliminate the proactive policing strategies that have kept communities safe and emboldened citizens to commit crime without any fear of consequences. What we do in Richmond with our sweeping police and parole reforms is dismantling and decimating our law enforcement community and tanking morale. Mr. President, the response, few are willing to step up anymore, knowing that when they have to make a split-second decision in a tumultuous and chaotic event, a moment that would take scholars, subject matter experts, and even Supreme Court justices weeks, months, or perhaps years to sort through, well, they'll be second-guessed. Monday morning quarterback, harassed, sued, threatened, or possibly worse. 30 years ago, the Virginia Beach Police Department would have received 1,200 applications for 30 positions. There was even a waiting list. Today, the police department has a full-time dedicated staff working tirelessly to try and find qualified candidates. They set up recruiting booths at colleges and universities across the state. Yet, in spite of these efforts, Virginia Beach recently saw 59 people show up for testing, an opportunity that used to be 1,200 people, while 82 vacancies existed in the department. And as I speak, they're conducting an academy of 40% of their classroom seating capacity. If you think just magically getting better, you're gravely misinformed. So what happens in this situation? The pressure to fill the vacancies leaves agencies having to overlook their disqualifiers and other potential red flags. People sometimes get selected that otherwise wouldn't have been qualified to serve. Is that what we want? Do we really want to lower the bar? I recognize, as riot after riot erupted this summer, the country, some leaders were slow to call on police to respond, and consequently, properties were burned, businesses were looted, businesses locally here were shut down, some of our favorite restaurants never opened again. However, we all witnessed how quickly the governor pulled the red handle upon and called upon the state police to respond to Washington, D.C. and assist at the U.S. Capitol last month. And like the cavalry riding over the hill, the Virginia State Police and others came to the rescue of our nation's capital because they were called upon and they're there to serve. Mr. President, last week in the governor's press conference, he acknowledged that we have an increased crime across the Commonwealth. Mr. President, do you know what his response was? We need more money to hire more police. The General Assembly is in session. We'll be working on providing more money, and they'll work to provide more money to hire more police officers. Mr. President, I'll ask, where are they going to come from? We can't fill the open positions we have today, and openings will only continue to grow. So, Mr. President, do you ever wonder what it would look like if nobody was there to call, if there weren't 200 troopers to be ready and willing to come to the rescue? I urge you and other members of the body to ask someone currently serving in law enforcement if they'd recommend the law enforcement profession to their children or grandchildren. Mr. President, we can, should, and need to do better than we have. And increasing taxes to cover a core service like our police officer sends the wrong message, just as the discussions on qualified immunity and all the laws we're doing to put our police officers more at risk. Thank you for your time.
Thank the Senator. For what purpose is the junior senator from Richmond City, Senator Morrissey, rise?
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise for a point of personal privilege.
Senator, is the floor.
Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen of this body, last year we passed Senate Bill 103, which was Senator Marsden's bill that dealt with establishing parole for juveniles. Those juveniles who were sentenced to a lengthy sentence, but after serving 20 years, they would be deemed eligible for parole. It was a significant change in criminal jurisprudence for juveniles. On October 31st this year, I received the following letter email from Anthony Gomez. I wanted to share it with the body. My name is Anthony Gomez, and I was recently released from prison after 24 years under the juvenile parole law that took effect on July 1st. I was sentenced to life plus 53 years as a 17-year-old offender in Henrico. They told me that I would die in prison and deserved this fate. It didn't seem to matter that I was sorry for my crime, that what I did in my adolescence did not define who I am as a human being. It would have been easy for me to believe them and let their words define what my life in prison should be like. But on the day that I was sentenced to spend the rest of my life in prison, my mom told me in tears to follow the rules and not get in any trouble because one day I will go up for parole and they would see that I am not a bad person. At that time, there was no parole in Virginia. There was no parole, and Virginia was executing juvenile offenders. But I took her word to heart, even if I would die in prison. I wanted to leave a legacy that I lived my life making better choices, seeking to atone for the terribly horrific choices I made in my youth. In all the years that I was incarcerated, I did not incur a single infraction. This is humorous, nor did I get any tattoos. I completed every rehabilitative course they allowed me to take. I got my GED. I earned trades. I became a certified paralegal assistant. I worked in the same prison law library for 14 years straight. I served as a DOC reentry elder and mentor to returning citizens. I facilitated Christian worship and study group services for over a decade. I earned the support and respect of fellow prisoners and staff. And I did these things before there was any hope of a second chance. Of course, there was always some hope. In my case, though, it was more like hope against hope. But the most humbling of all, I got the opportunity in this life to meet my crime victims' parents in 2018 through the DOC's Victim Offender Dialogue process to experience the impact my crime had on them and allow me to express my sorrow for what I had done. It's been 2 months since I had been home. I live in Stanston with my mom, younger brother born after I was already in prison, and my stepdad. A young Charlottesville lawyer who I met years ago through my work in the library and prison ministry hired me as his paralegal my first week out and is allowing me to work from home. I go to church with my family each Sunday, worship by my mother's side in the church she's been going to for years, praying I get a second chance. I am 41 years old with goals of going to college and pursuing a career. I have several options, but haven't settled on anything. The reasons I share these things is because I want you and everyone who voted to give people like me a second chance to know that your votes were not in vain. I am humbly grateful for my second chance at life. In many ways, it is my first chance. I will be striving each and every day to make the most of my life with the opportunity that I have been given. Words will never be able, words will never be able to convey my gratitude for public servants who put up a vigorous fight to improve our lives, regardless of the background or poor choices that we might have made. Legislators hold enormous power with their vote to improve lives and make Virginia a more equitable state for all. I am free and blessed, and I am a free and blessed recipient of that effort. Couple of as Paul Harvey would say, the rest of the story notes, Mr. President. He moved to Sandston, not too far from my office, and he asked if he could come and meet with me, and he did. And I am telling you, this person is a superb writer. Two things happened. One, I convinced him that Charlottesville was too far away and too much to travel back and forth, so he agreed, and I hired him. He's been working in our office 30 hours a week. The last thing, and what I find somewhat humorous, is that he went into surgery and he was in there for 2 weeks. He gets a biweekly paycheck of $15.41, and he was gone, and the office, while I was in the General Assembly, called him and said that his check was there. He didn't understand that, and he came by the office, and she gave him the check. And he looked at it, and he said, well, I've been gone for 2 weeks. He said, and she told him, you're on salary. You're a salaried employee. He simply could not understand the concept of getting a check, even though he'd been hospitalized. This young man is one of the most impressive people that I've met in quite some time. His name is Anthony Gomez. This person got his second chance, and I can promise you, Mr. President, members of this body, he is going to be a productive and purposeful member of our community, of our Commonwealth, for years and years to come. And it's because
of Senator Marsden's SB 103 that he's home and working. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank the senator. For purposes, Senator from Arlington, Senator Favola rise.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to make an announcement.
Senator's the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. At the conclusion of our session today, I would ask members of the Rehab and Social Services Committee to stay in this room. We have a few housekeeping items. Thank you.
Thank the senator. Do any other senators wish to be recognized? Seeing none, the clerk will report any announcements on the desk.
Today, Wednesday, February 10th, the Committee on General Laws and Technology will meet 1/2 hour after adjournment in the East Committee Room. The Committee on the Judiciary will meet 1/2 hour after adjournment in the West Committee Room. The Committee on Rehabilitation and Social Services will meet immediately upon adjournment in the chamber for the purpose of re-referring a bill. Members, please remain in your seat. Tomorrow, Thursday, February 11th, the Committee on Education and Health will meet at 8 a.m. in the West Committee Room. The Democratic Caucus will meet 1/2 hour before session in the Democratic Caucus Room. The Republican Caucus will meet 1/2 hour before session in the Republican Caucus Room. And there are 4 shopping days till Valentine's Day.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Is there any other business to come before the Senate? Seeing none, I call on the Senator, Madam President, from Portsmouth, Senator Lucas.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move that the Senate do now adjourn until 12 noon tomorrow.
Senator, the question is, shall the Senate stand adjourned until 12 noon tomorrow? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The Senate will stand adjourned until 12 noon tomorrow.
Senator Serval. Senator DeSteff. Here. Senator Cosgrove. Senator Mason. Senator Spruill. Senator Spruill. Senator Stewart. Senator Kiggins. Senator Morrissey. Senator Boysko.
Here.
Senator Favola.
Here.
Madam Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Colleagues, we have 2 motions before us. I would like somebody to make a motion to re-refer House Bill 2098 to general laws. Motion has been made by Senator Reeves and seconded by Senator Cosgrove. All those in favor of this motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Does anybody wish to be noted as opposing this motion? Seeing none. Does anybody wish to abstain? Seeing none. Clerk, that motion passes unanimously. I question to the clerk, Senator Boysko was not on Zoom. Did you want her on Zoom?
I'm here, Madam
Okay.
Chair.
Oh, okay. And you voted accordingly? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Second motion, colleagues, we need to refer 4 bills to Education and Health. House Bill 1831, House Bill 2086. House Bill 2154, and House Bill 2166. I would like a motion to refer those 4 bills to Education and Health. Motion has been made by Senator Reeves and seconded by Senator Stewart. All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Does anybody wish to be on record saying no? Anybody wish to abstain? Hearing none. Mr. Clerk, that motion passes unanimously. Is there any other business to come before Rehab and Social Services at this time? Seeing none, okay, the committee shall rise. Thank you. Sorry. Yeah. We still have another 20 to do.